Southwest Ohio and Wilmington Airport and give us 6,500 jobs right away if they were to come about and put this plan together. We need a simpler tax system. That goes without saying. I'm a fan of the fair tax, but anything along that lines where we can get a simpler, easier to understand tax, where we're not taxed for everything we do, every breath we take, I'm all on board for that. The EPA, the ATF, the IRS are just some of the regulatory agencies that need to be stripped of their power and done away with altogether, I believe. They tie into this entity called the United Nations, which Chuck has brought up before here when we discussed regionalism and globalization. The United Nations years ago launched this program called Agenda 21. And basically every problem we're seeing in this country right now, financially, economically, energy-wise, and food-wise, is tied into this. The EPA's overreaching regulations are crippling our industries, crippling our economy, crippling our schools, crippling our food industry, and our farmers. The ATF, we saw what they're trying to do. It's a blatant attack on the Second Amendment, which I'm a supporter of 100%, with their Fast and Furious fiasco down in Mexico. The IRS, I'm sure none of us are fans of the IRS. But here's a couple of the things that we face with this problem, and this ties into a lot of stuff that we need people to stand up against in Congress. With this UN issue, mandated civil service for our youth, implementation of universal lifelong education or sustainable development. When you hear that word sustainability, you gotta run away from it. They're doing it in Ashtabula County. I've been out to Ashtabula County quite a bit in the last few months, and the county's hurting real bad because of it. And control of the size of your family. This ties into a lot of the birth control and the pro-choice votes. Cutting and limiting the amount of goods and services you can buy and use, denying you access to wildlands. They want to attempt to re-green everything and tell you where you can live. Give you a little circle of land, you can live here, but you can't go outside of this. It's not a government, it's not a person's, let alone a group of foreign guys, right to tell us what we can do, where we can live, what we can wear, what we can eat, and how to choose to live our lives. We have a God-given right to build the greatest life we can for our families, and there's no government entity or group of people that can tell us otherwise. The Second Amendment we talked about, I'm a firm supporter of the Second Amendment. We need to protect our gun ownership rights. I'm a supporter of a strong national defense. I do have my opinions on the last two wars that we've been involved in, and we can talk about that later. The Afghanistan war, I'm not going to drone on about it, but our job's done there. We need to be done with it. Healthcare, something that's obviously really big to a lot of you. It's healthcare insurance and healthcare protection is something we need, but it's not something that can be forced on the taxpayers. It's not our job to. We're the most generous people on the planet in America. We're the first country to rush to the aid of any other country when something goes wrong. That's just in our being, that's what we are. But if I'm working and I'm busting my butt 7 days a week, 5 days a week, and I have a neighbor that doesn't want to work, it's not my job to take care of that person. If the person can't work, God love you, and there's always ways we can help you, and we need to develop those programs. I'm a big supporter of health savings accounts. Kind of works like your 401k, and you can control where your health savings money goes to take care of you. We need to wipe out the middleman between the doctors and the patient, and that's where a lot of this bloating is coming from. Medicare and Medicaid, I think just like with welfare, we need to improve the way we define eligibility. There's too much raping of the systems going on right now, and it's blatant, and nobody will call anybody out on it. One last one, the sanctity of life. Human life, in my eyes, needs to be protected from conception until natural death. There is no discussion on that issue with me beyond that. That is what I firmly believe. Now on to our primary. We got a lot of good guys in this primary, but we're going up against a guy in a general election in Sheriff Brown, who I don't think Ohio or the United States of America can afford 6 more years of. It's not going to take pretty speeches and fluffy talk and a lot of handshakes to beat this guy. I watched him up close in 2006, and it's going to take a different junkyard dog type attitude to go after this guy. Now, I'm not saying stand up there and hit him with a chair or anything like that, although some people might like to do that. But you can't, there's too much being Mr. Nice Guy, and I see it in the presidential debates. You see it, well, not so much in the Republican primary. Those guys are going at each other pretty good. But we saw it in 2008 with John McCain. He got too nice. So we need somebody that's going to take a working class attitude, a working class experience into this election. Sheriff Brown touts he knows the working class. He's never been working class. He's never had a real job. I've been working class since I was 16 years old. And I'm not a career politician, nor do I want to be. I want to go there to represent you folks in Washington, D.C., and do it the right way, and not do it for the lobbyists, but to do it for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rusty. Okay, now we're moving into our final portion of our meeting, and Ted Andrzejewski, current mayor of Eastlake and running for county commissioner, if he would come forward. And our second candidate is Daniel Tharp, also running for county commissioner. Now, I need to explain that in our January meeting, we had the 4 Republican candidates who were running for county commissioner. They appeared in our candidates forum. The Democrat candidates on that day happened to have their caucus meeting to determine their endorsements and so forth, and were unable to attend. So I don't know if Daniel Tharp is here, but we do have Mayor Andrzejewski, and after typing his name a multitude of times over the last month, I think I know how to spell it correctly. So with that, we will begin with Ted's 4-minute introduction.
Thank you very much, Chuck, and good evening to all of you, and thank you, Tea Party, for the invitation. And I can see what they mean now about the lights. I'm just going to refer to a few notes. My name is Ted Andrzejewski, and I am a candidate for Lake County Commissioner, and I am the current mayor of the city of Eastlake. A little biographic information, because everybody likes to hear that. I believe education is important. I have a BS degree, business management from the University of Buffalo, where I grew up, and I have an MBA from John Carroll University. Before mayor, I served on the planning commission of the city of Eastlake for 12, 15 years. I was a councilman for 1 year, and then I became mayor, and I have been elected to the office of mayor 3 times, so I'm very proud of that. I coached in the community every sport you can think of. I love sports, soccer, baseball, football, basketball. I coached in our community for a good 12 to 15 years, and I've been a resident of Lake County and Eastlake for 31 years in the same house that we bought when we moved here. That's enough about my biographical information. I think you want to hear more about why I'm the best candidate for the office of commissioner. I believe that the county needs a drastic change in leadership to reflect the more conservative values of the communities that we serve, especially when it comes to managing the county finances. I have a real problem of what's going on with the county and the state in shifting the burdens down to the cities, the townships, the villages. The approach for too many years has been to increase taxes instead of controlling costs. I had this written before the question, but I'll tell you right up front, I oppose the 0.5% sales tax increase.